Our next contestants in the battle of the budgets are two big conservative think tanks, the Heritage Foundation and the American Enterprise Institute. They also were given $200,000 each to come up with a better budget. Stuart Butler's with the Heritage Foundation. Andrew Biggs is with AEI. So, Andrew, you first. What's your plan?
Well, when you've got an aging population, when you have baby boomers retiring, people living longer,
It is annoying. We all want to live longer.
Strangely, yes. But you need smaller populations of workers need to be able to support larger populations of retirees. To do that, you want the economy to be strong. You want people to save more, work more, retire later. The basic framework I see is if you fix our entitlement and our budget problems by raising taxes, people are going to do the exact opposite. They're going to work less, they're going to save less, they're going to retire earlier. They're going to do all the things you don't want them to do. So we said we have to restrain government spending. We have to put a limit on the size of entitlement programs and refocus them on the things that are needed.
Bob Beckel said if we spend more, we'll just create more wealth. We'll have better roads. Wealth will happen.
Well, that's like drinking 5 cups of coffee in the morning. You feel pretty good for a while, but you're not going to feel good all day long. That's not going to work.
All right, so your plan does what to entitlements?
Well, 3 things. Social Security is shifted towards a flat poverty level benefit that essentially eliminates poverty among the retirees. Today, we spend $750 billion a year, and 10% of retirees are still in poverty. We could fix poverty for half that. So we say everybody's going to get a poverty level benefit at retirement.
$850 a month.
But on top of that, you're going to save on your own. So that focuses, government does what government does best, which is helping alleviate poverty, redistributing, but the savings part is left to individuals and to markets. Medicare and Medicaid need to be fixed. American health care is like an all-you-can-eat restaurant. It costs a ton to get in the door, but once you're there, you can get more and more and more, and nobody cares what it costs. So we need to refocus these programs with more cost consciousness. Medicaid is shifted to a block grant. Right now, Medicaid...
Just similar to what Congressman Ryan wants to do.
Right now, the Medicaid system, the spending decisions are made by the states, but the federal government covers most of the costs. So you can imagine people don't care that much about quality and cost effectiveness because the guys making the decisions are not the ones paying the bills.
All right, stop there. My brain is full for a moment. Stuart, your plan is similar, I assume, but you cut more.
Well, you know, the problem in this country, the reason that we're in a mess, is not because we're not taxing enough. It's because the government is spending far too much. So we think, so in our view, the solution to this is to balance the budget by bringing spending down. And we balance the budget within 10 years, which is more than anybody else does. And we do it by reducing spending.
Heritage cuts more than any of these other plans and balances
it's got to be
the budget more quickly.
It's got to be done. You know, I was brought up in Europe. I've seen the results of this. And everybody's seeing on television today the results of overspending in Europe. We've got to get this under control. And we've got to stop giving benefits to people who don't need them in these programs, in these big entitlement programs.
And I should be clear, you balance the budget eventually. None of the other plans do.
That's right, permanently.
You means test entitlements.
Yeah, they're already means tested to some degree.
And Paul Ryan also, he leaves me in the program. He has a 10-year...
Yeah, but you're part of the problem, you see, because if you get benefits, then we can't afford them for everybody else. The important thing to do is to make sure that people at the lower end, people who are struggling when they reach retirement, have enough. And then say, if you don't really need these, you know, debt-financed benefits because you're a multimillionaire, then you start ratcheting back on those benefits. That's how you get spending down. That's how you get a balance.
But when anybody talks about Medicare cuts, the public seems to get angry.
Yeah, I understand. But you can't have it all ways. If you're going to give huge benefits, unlimited benefits to anybody, irrespective of what their need is, then you're going to have a government that's out of control, and that's exactly what we have today.
Why not cut the military? Neither of your plans cuts military more than Obama would.
Well, you know, the fact is that the core requirement of the federal government is to defend us. If we get invaded or bombed, it spoils your whole day. And the fact is that we've got to say, how do we do this as efficiently as possible to defend the country and our interests? And what we do is say, that's not an issue for discussion in balancing the budget. If we fail to secure our country and our country's interests, it doesn't matter what you do in these other programs.
What's wrong with his plan?
There are a few problems. First of all, the AI plan Andrew's plan allows taxes to drift up as well as spending above what we've historically done in this country. I think that's a bad step. He will also impose some new taxes, particularly carbon taxes, which means gasoline prices will go up, and fuel costs generally. I don't think that's a good idea. I think that there ought to be taxes on everything that's spent, so that if you're earning a lot, you pay more, but it's all at the same rate. That's fair, it's equal, people can understand it, and there are no loopholes.
That would be a big change. So, two plans which do put us on a sustainable path. Let's check in with the judges. David Asman.
I have to announce that I once worked for Heritage Foundation, so I may be biased years and years, decades ago. Stuart, if I may take the prerogative to ask him, what about the means testing? What if I've kept every penny I ever earned and saved a couple of $1 million? Would I be means tested on how much money I have in my deposit box, or how much money I made in a year?
No, you wouldn't be taxed on how much wealth you had, how much money you had in your savings, and like that.
Right.
It would depend exactly on how much you spent. And the only people who would be affected under our proposal are the richest 9% of retirees.
Sandra?
Andrew, I look at your plan and I look at this, the consumption tax. I question what that would do for spending at such a, very difficult time for our country right now to impose this consumption tax. Would it discourage spending?
Well, over the long term, it's designed to discourage spending. I mean, we want savings is good for the economy. It builds capital, builds infrastructure, it builds research and technology. So you want to have more of that. Over the long term, that's the way to go. You may take a short-term hit depending on when you phase it in, but over the long term, you want to save more.
Bob?
You both would turn Medicaid basically into the voucher system that Ryan talks about. You really trust the state of Mississippi and Louisiana to take a block grant and spend it to help poor people? Have you ever spent any time in the Louisiana State Legislature, the Mississippi State Legislature?
Oh, I mean, if you look at the way the system is set up now, they're spending somebody else's money. So if you think they're going to be smarter spending somebody else's money, the federal government's money, than spending their own money.
You're not answering his question. He's saying you can't trust some states.
But you're not just giving carte blanche to states like Louisiana and Mississippi to do whatever they want. You're basically saying, here's the amount of money that you've been getting. Now use that in a more creative way to get the job done. And we will be watching to make sure that you've done that. And you'll have flexibility. It's not casting people loose.
If you can watch that well, I congratulate you. Last point
it's not being done
I want
now.
to make, isn't it the case that you could take all the discretionary spending in the entire federal government, except for defense, and wipe it all out? All of it, every bit of it, and you'd still have a deficit. That's one of the old ruses of the right. You guys all make this point about discretionary spending. Oh, we spend more. Not because we spend more, we tax too much. I've heard that Ronald Reagan line over and over again. The fact of the matter is, it's all about entitlements, isn't it?
And we fix entitlements.
We totally agree with you. And the fact is that I think both of us, probably unique among these groups, actually deal with these entitlements.
I agree with you.
Isn't it Harry Reid that said we don't have to worry about entitlements for the next 30, 40 years?
Yeah, and he was wrong about that.
And we're doing it. You should be for us,
all right,
because
and
we attacked them.
On that note, and I should say that for you people in Louisiana and Mississippi, the opinions of some of the guests do not reflect the opinions of the show. Coming up, the final contestants, a bipartisan think tank and a liberal one that President Obama helped start. Then the audience votes on who wins the award for best budget.